We got some news, which I wasn't going to cover on its own video until this happened. So we noticed, well, Archer noticed a change to the servers. I'm gonna actually pull up our news section. If you're not in our Discord, you should be. Also, this video is being posted 19 minutes before I usually record my my daily missions. So if you're watching this, check my channel. It's probably going to be up soon, so I don't want to bury that video, and I'll also plug this video in that one. But that aside, I need to get Discord back open. They noticed that husks are now 30% slower, the ones that are doing a ton of damage, or huskies are doing, 30% slower, which means I think that's on top of the 20%, so they're moving at half speed, if I'm getting that right. I could be wrong, but husks no longer are doing 3 projectiles, and he showed footage here where they were essentially doing, oh, this is just tiny, there we go. The zappers were now doing 2 projectiles, but according to the write-up we're about to read, they are going to be reverted back to normal temporarily. We'll get into that in a second. And then Huskies and Smashers now do 200% instead of 300%, and that is in response somewhat, I mean, this is just one person saying it, but we were all noticing it. I just kicked a box of granola bars. Super mini bosses, or Smasher mini bosses, one-shot tier 3 metal, even with base and banner, which is about as strong as things can get. Now, you shouldn't really be running metal too much right now because it seems like everything is in a nature storm, so those are very popular. You should probably be running brick, but I agree with Magus where, like, yeah, that is insanely strong. And this is even true in the 160s where Smashers just delete walls, and constructors can help. They definitely do. Base Kyle will make your walls not get one-shotted, but it's bad even without this modifier, so you can only imagine. I have to imagine, I don't have the game open, but I have not actually ran Ventures yet. I did a stream yesterday. It was like 8 hours, I don't know, on my Twitch, and we were doing mostly dungeons, so we had fun with that. I really enjoyed it. I just haven't had a chance to get into Ventures. When people voted, they wanted dungeons, and I agreed. So Magus made this post, and this is why this video is possible, because those 3 tiny changes were like something to mention in the daily video. I wasn't able to do much with that, but we have information. So, hey commanders, we've heard recent feedback, so they've been reading your posts on Reddit, and agree that things are aggressively overtuned. Here are some changes that have been made recently, in a recently released hotfix. Note these changes may take a few minutes, and this is why we're getting this through a Reddit post. It was a hotfix. We noticed these server changes through other means, and they were not officially announced until now. So super range modifiers, they are temporarily removing the Ventures modifier from lobbers, flingers, and pitchers. This means they'll only throw 1 projectile and deal their normal damage. So they're essentially just back to default, and zappers and blasters will remain unchanged for the time being. So I assume the zapper that we just took a look at will probably be the same. What's going to be back to normal is the lobbers, flingers, and pitchers. So the bone thrower, lobbers, Lobbers are, as I can show, thank you to Archer, I have footage, I believe it's this one, of this is what lobbers were pre-patch, which are essentially just spamming 3 projectiles, which will be coming back. We'll get to that later in the post, but one of the things that was bugged about these is that they were doing normal, well, at least increased damage to the structures. So they're supposed to be doing more projectiles but less damage per projectile. However, that was only applying to the heroes, to you as the player. And well, I'm skipping ahead of myself here. So we definitely want to introduce a challenge when creating these modifiers to encourage players to find new and creative ways to handle them. However, these projectiles are way overtuned, both due to balancing and a bug that's causing the damage reduction to only apply to heroes and not structures and objectives, which in my opinion that makes sense. Like, it's annoying how spammy that is. Just looking at that footage makes me a little glad that I haven't ran Ventures before they're getting nerfed. But if they're dealing less damage, it's probably not even that big of a deal. Like, if they're doing 1/3 of the damage, it doesn't really matter if they're throwing 1/3 of the projectiles. Thanks, Windows. Yeah, updates are very important to do right now. We feel that the multiple projectiles is an important part of the modifier, and we'll be reintroducing them with the correct damage and tuning and targeting, damage tuning and targeting in a later update. So they will be coming back, but hopefully with a more reasonable amount of damage. Now, for the super tough husks, they're toning back the environmental damage that they're doing with the normal huskies, chrome and normal, sploders, riot shields, and smashers deal to structures, further decreasing their movement speed. And he'll explain himself here. The overall goal here was to have these enemies create a dangerous presence as they slowly close in on your fort, which I think that makes sense. Like, rather than just having your walls simply not exist, they're essentially just looming in, slow enough to where you can do something about it, but very dangerous if they reach the base. However, as he says here, the movement speed debuff wasn't as slow as they liked, and only a minor drawback, considering the damage these husks can actually deal once they reach your base. We feel that Slowing them down even more and toning back their damage will still keep them a threat, giving players plenty of time to focus on them and reduce the havoc they will cause. And that I can completely understand, because even, like I said, in 160s, when smashers go nuts, we don't even upgrade our walls anymore. It just doesn't make sense. They will just run through them constantly, and they won't deal damage to the objective. Smashers won't, but it's terrible. So I can only imagine in Ventures when husky husks are nearly one-shotting your walls. That's just insane. So giving you more time to deal with them is really quite nice. I've also heard a lot of complaints from players where when you get hit by them, you get slowed down by like a ridiculous amount. It's not my understanding that this was really addressed here, but hopefully in the future, they will not slow down the player as much. Because personally speaking, from water, ice storm modifiers, when you get hit by the zombies, if you don't know, the way the different elements works, when you get hit by fire, you take damage. When you get hit by nature, you used to take damage and lose energy. Now you only lose energy. And when you get hit by water enemies, you get slowed down. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it so much. I'm a very technical player. I like to be quite precise. So when my movement gets reduced, I can't. Everything gets all haywire, and it drives me nuts. So I can only imagine. I wish I had played more Ventures, but I've been reading tons of comments on my YouTube channel. I've been a little bit behind and slow lately, but I have been trying to keep up with you guys. I have been reading lots of feedback on Ventures, so I feel like I'm informed, even if I haven't ran it myself. So looking ahead, they'll be removing the ability for chrome husks and mini bosses to gain these modifiers in a future patch. I assume that would have already been the case, but as I said, the stacking mini-bosses and Ventures modifiers have created some nasty and extremely overpowered husk combinations. The modifiers are designed to be difficult, but not that level of difficulty, and there are still instances where mini-boss are overpowered until we can release the patch and this change can take effect. However, the immediate change will help mitigate their strengths, and they give it the continued feedback, and I'm assuming if you want your voice to be heard, this is probably a good post to respond to. Oh, wow. That's a name I know. Archer is like solely responsible for so much of this because he just dives so much further into the game than I do, and it's good to keep up on top of this stuff. So obviously these are just some of them, like the super ranged, are temporary, but they will, I'm assuming, be making more tweaks in the future. We'll be eyeing this very closely. I'll try to keep you guys up to date, and if there are any more things to discuss, I will try to get into it. Speaking of which, chrome husks, apparently. So if you go to my old video, actually here, I linked it recently in my, the Venture Season 5, yeah. So in my video talking about how to get rid of chrome husks, which should be right here, so apparently this doesn't work anymore. I think there was a top comment or something recent at least. I responded a sad face, because chrome husks no longer go away from completing the quest. I don't know if this is intended. I don't know if that's a thing that's I don't know if it's intended, but apparently completing the quest line to remove chrome husks, if you will, that I explained in this video, that doesn't happen anymore. But I could also say from personal experience that mini bosses can no longer be chrome husks, which there's a give and take. So I haven't honestly noticed chrome husk being much of a problem running the 160s for the supercharger, seeing as I'm one of the 4 people who care about hero superchargers nowadays. Having been running them, I feel like chrome husks haven't been that bad. They're just they don't do damage to the objective, so frankly they're kind of like gentle giants. You just ignore them and then the mission kind of handles itself. All right, I'll see you guys later. I'll keep you guys up to date with any future news. I'll link this Reddit thread down below in case he edits it, or if you guys want to comment on it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I guess I'll technically see you in 11 minutes if you're watching this as I'm recording this, which is impossible, but I'll see you guys soon regardless.